G'day everyone, Harry here. Just to do a quick video on at least a coder's perspective of why we have three different liquidity sentiment indicators, and finally the new irregular liquidity indicator, which I will be publishing soon to everyone that's already got our liquidity sentiment or any of our Patreon people. But I'm here to describe the difference between the three and why the new one is helpful. And so I'll go down in order of when they were made. So our first one here is our original liquidity sentiment indicator. It's this top one here, and this is very useful for not only showing current movements in liquidity or illiquidity, but it's also useful in showing the current positioning of a certain stock or ticker's illiquidity in respect to previous times. So just for an example, like down here, we see this big spike in illiquidity, and it's in an extremely illiquid zone, but we also see quite a big spike here of illiquidity. But they are not necessarily proportional, as this is in a much more illiquid part of the market here, and this is in a much less, although they're both large spikes. So this is good in showing perspective between different time periods, and that was a little different on our second indicator, which is a normalized indicator. So this is liquidity by time periods. So what we did is we split the liquidity into normalized time periods, and we split into 5 time periods. So we've got everything from 15 what are we on 30 minutes, so 15 lots of 30 minutes up to 500 lots of 30 minutes. And this was very useful. We kind of used them as confidence lines, or how great was the effect in comparison to the past. So a fall in illiquidity, so a fall into illiquidity, so very green areas, were much more obvious when all of the lines converge. So not only was there a great effect in the smallest one, which was the past 15 lot of 30 minutes, this could be days, so the past 15 days, but it's also influential in the in all of the past 30-minute lots, the past 500 of them. So these convergence of lines it gives us a bit of confidence that it is truly in a liquid zone. And so then what we did is we just created a nice average line, which just put all of those together and just generally showed illiquidity and liquidity periods. And so finally we were playing around with our liquidity sentiment indicator for quite a long time, and we noticed what logically, actually Bruce noticed, is during you can see here the white areas are in the lit market, and the grey areas are in the unlit market, or where we assume that Americas and Europe are no longer really trading actively. So during trading hours, it's very illiquid. My apologies, I try not to stuff it up too much. Very illiquid during trading periods, and very liquid in periods where not a lot of people were trading. And this pattern repeats historically. It's just how the market works. And so what we assumed is this regular pattern seems to not necessarily indicate where the actual liquidity is at. It's just saying whether or not the market's open or closed. So that's what our newest liquidity indicator was trying to tackle, whereas we assume that is rhythmical, that's going to happen every day. So let's try to take that out as noise, and let's find everything in the liquidity that wouldn't otherwise happen on any regular day. And so what we did is we just created a prediction of the liquidity every day, which is this black line you can see here. Now it is a moving average, so it depends on what the current situation in the market. The change in liquidity might be very great, or in this period it was a lot less. But anyway, it's just a model that tries to predict what the liquidity would look like on a regular day at the moment. And so then if we project our average liquidity sentiment up here, if I put the actual line on, sorry, this is and show divergence, we can assume that these areas of shaded is the divergence from what we would assume to be regular liquidity. And this allowed us to then, if we take out the divergence, we can take the difference and just show what we assume to be irregular liquidity. So, and it does differ. Let me find an example. It does differ from our previous indicators. Whereas here we see the price falling, and hence we would fall into illiquidity as the price falls, and we can see that in all three of our indicators. The price falling, there's a gain of, or it becomes quite illiquid in all three. But then in both our original and our averaged of all the time periods, we can see that it becomes pretty liquid again, or somewhat liquid. But what our new model would suggest is that is just a regular movement of the market. So if we were to get rid of the regular movement of the market, our new indicator is saying it is still extremely illiquid, and hence why that charge would push up the price, and in this case it has here, it's pushed up the price, and it's indicating that again there is still more illiquidity to give, and again it pushes up the price until we finally have lost quite a lot of that charge of that illiquidity, and we fall into liquidity, and the price falls again. So yeah, that's just the pattern, and it differs from this one, where it indicates this, it's becoming quite liquid again, and this one it's becoming quite liquid again. But here it indicates that actually that's a normal market movement, and we're not going to take that into account. So I apologize if I've said liquidity or illiquidity the wrong way around. Feel free to ask any questions. Again, I'm a coder. I'm not a very good analyst, and but hit me with any questions you've got. And yeah, thanks for watching.